those of you keeping track at home, and we've now seen it. We've had a Democrat congressman over here. Who was an Iraq veteran, an Afghan vet. We've had a Republican congressman over there. We've had a bunch of former special forces, former special operations veterans that went over there and voluntarily conducted their own rescue operation where they literally got hundreds of Afghans safely from inside Kabul, where the Taliban was guarding and hunting them, onto the airfield. And even that has not been enough because Joe Biden will not allow other people to come in and to assist. We'll get into more about why I know that's true, but he hasn't let other people come in and assist with the evac operations. And so now we're at a point right now where most of the Americans have gotten out. A lot of our Afghan allies have not. And then some of the things that the administration is saying, I want to key into this. Some of the things that the administration is saying is, well, everybody that wants to get out, we're making a way for that to take place. But some people have voluntarily chosen to stay. Okay. Here's the reality of that statement, because this is another one of those things that politicians do where they give you what is technically a true statement, but they leave out very important information and very important context when they make it, right? And in logic, we call it, it's a lie of omission, right? So he's saying that, hey, we've offered it to certain people and they voluntarily decided to stay. Let me ask you a question. You're with the former Afghan security forces or Afghan intelligence, and you've been working with Americans for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And the Taliban knows who you are at this point, and they've got a target on your head. And the Biden administration says, no problem. You can come, you can evacuate to the United States. But not your wife or not your children or not your parents, right? You can, but you've got to leave key family members there. Or maybe they'll let you take some family members, but not other family members. So if you're the sort of honorable person that wants to take care of your family, are you going to abandon vulnerable members of your family to get on the plane and flee to safety? Is that what you're going to do? Well, a lot of people have made the choice that I hope all of us would, which is to say, I'm not going to abandon members of my family to the depredations of the Taliban in order to save my own skin. And so that is where Biden gets to come in on some of these situations, not all of them, but some of these situations, and say, well, we offered them a way out. They decided to stay. No, you didn't offer them a genuine choice. You offered them a choice to get them to safety and then have to get to the United States or wherever they go next and hear about what happens to their family that they left behind. That's not a real option. That's not a real option. It's disingenuous to talk about that as if that was a clear option that was being provided when, again, we made certain commitments to these people. So it's incredibly frustrating, and we've talked about this before. And you know what? Here's what I find interesting. While the LA Times editorial board is bending over backwards in order to give top cover to the Biden administration, here's an interesting question. Any of those members from the LA Times editorial board, any of them hunkered down in a building right now in Kabul, praying to God that they can get out? Any of them faced with a decision where the only way they can get to safety is by leaving family members behind? Are they faced with that decision? Or are they writing this op-ed from a nice, comfortable, protected, air-conditioned office on the West Coast of the United States? I'm guessing it's the latter. But what I also find fascinating about this, and this is not just the LA Times, but it's a ton of different editorial boards. The White House press corps has essentially become a bunch of like court historians for the Biden administration. Very few of them willing to ask the sort of pressing hard questions that every one of them would have been chomping at the bit to ask if Donald Trump was president, if any Republican was president. I mean, do you think we'd be getting do you think a Republican president right now would be getting softball questions about their dog with everything that is going on in the country right now? I'm willing to bet no. And yet that's what we see happening with our White House press corps. That's what we see happening among people at the editorial page at the LA Times. By the way, these are the same news outlets that just realized that Gavin Newsom is probably going to lose his recall election. And so what have they done in the last couple of weeks? They have all decided to get on board and just pile on Larry Elder, who's the leading Republican in that election for the recall effort out there. But this is what we have become so used to seeing, whether it's Terry McAuliffe screwing up his paperwork and then being held to a different standard, whether it's the press coming to the aid of a particular politician that they adore, despite the fact that they've been caught in scandals, whether it's the Biden administration clearly, completely botching up the Afghanistan withdrawal and getting softball questions from the media. Right? This is what we've come to expect. And quite frankly, this is one of the reasons why I do this podcast. This is one of the reasons why I do it. because I think people deserve to hear a different perspective and different insight with respect to what's going on in the world, because we can no longer trust most of our outlets within mainstream media to even present a different perspective, right? Without creating like a straw man where they just create this caricature of a conservative argument and then knock it down. Right? If they were just as hard on Joe Biden as they are on Republican presidents, especially Donald Trump, I would at least have some respect for him, even if I didn't necessarily agree with their conclusions. But what they've demonstrated is that rather than being an objective media outlet with an editorial side of what they do, the editorial is what they pitch when they tell you it's objective reporting. And I think we're all done with it. And I think what you see in Afghanistan is a perfect demonstration of just the absolute departure from reality of so many members of our mainstream media.